This video is called Talking Points, and there's a reason it's called that, and that is because we want you to talk to us when we, or I, talk to you. So what's going to happen in this video? We're going to look back at the content that we released during the month of October, and we're going to pick subjects from those films and we're going to talk about them. So with every film we make, there's always something interesting, there's always something worth talking about, and that's what we want to do here. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to reply in the comments below to the questions that I ask you. We might even end up doing this as a live stream, so you can talk to us live and interactive, but we'll try this first. And as a little incentive to get you talking and replying to us, we have got new t-shirts in green, in black and in grey, and we are going to give one of each colour to somebody that puts a comment in the comments section below. So, the month of October, the first film I'm going to choose is from Neil Spooner's Monster Day Ticket Carp series, and this talking point is all about moving swims or not moving swims. Now, I'm sure lots of you have fished busy day ticket waters in the past, and you'll know what it's like to be hemmed in with, you've got decisions to make. Do I stay? Do I move? And a lot of people think that when we make carp fishing videos, we get all the swims roped off, they get pre-baited, blah, blah, blah. That really is not the case. And 99% of the time we are fishing just like you guys would. We turn up to fish with the cameras, and the people around us and what's going on around the lake dictates the success that we have. And this was no different in Neil Spooner's case. And my question to you is, have you ever been in the situation where you wanted to move, you didn't move, and then you come to regret that decision like Neil does here?
Right, I've reeled one of the zigs in. We've got probably about an hour of daylight left, and I'm going to put at least 2 rods on the deck tonight. So before I actually start baiting up, I need to find out exactly where they're going to go. I've wrapped my mark rod up to 100 yards, see what the bottom's like out there, find the best looking spot. There's certainly plenty of carp about, and I'm hoping with the amount of activity they've shown throughout the day, with the odd show here and there drifting around, they're going to have to drop down tonight to have a little bit of grub. So let's have a look. All hellish gravel. That is nice, and that is just what I want. There is a lot of gravel out there, and I don't really, when there's that much of it, for me it's not much of a feature. So to find something that is probably either very smooth, firm silt, or possibly clay, when you've got that in an area surrounded by gravel, that is the feature I want. Right, I've got some pretty typical ingredients that I'd take anywhere at this time of year. 10mm cell first of all. Then I've got some tiger nuts. Don't get to use them loads, but on venues that allow their use, I do like to include them in my mix. And then this one, I've got some 10mm halibut pellets. I'm not going to put loads in, literally just a couple of handfuls. I like the fact that they break down at different rates, they let off lots and lots of attraction, but there are a few catfish in here and they can absolutely devour the stuff, so I'm going to keep them to a minimum. And then something that I do not leave home without, and I find myself using it loads, especially at this time of year, sweet corn. Good dollop of that in. Give that a good old mix up. That is a very, very simple mix. I'm going to add some smart liquid in there as well, just so there's plenty of attraction working up and down the water column. And finally, something that can really help kickstart a spot where silverfish aren't a problem. I'm going to put some chopped worm in there as well. Now I'm going to give them a decent hit of bait. There's clearly a lot of fish down this end of the lake, and I want to put a bit of a statement, a good bed of bait. They can get down, feed as a group, create that competition for food. And once I've got 3 rigs among it, when you know there's fish on the spot, it just feels like a matter of time before you get a bite. So probably half of that bucket of bait, I reckon, maybe a little bit more. Get some rods out. left it as late as possible to get the rods out for the night. I think I've just got enough time. Going to keep it simple. 3 spinner rigs, all on the same spot. I'm just going to vary the hook baits up. I'll tip one with a bit of worm because I've put worm in the mix. And then a couple of different colours, different flavours. Hopefully we get enough bites that we can ring the changes and you can move your hook baits over to one particular one that's definitely doing the damage. But until then, we'll keep our options open, a few different ones, see what happens. Oh, we are angling, boys. That's a really pleasing first day. Rods are now set out lovely, but we're going to sleep knowing we've caught a lovely 30-pounder already. I've seen fish behind the spot as I'm getting the rods out. Hopefully, a bit of nighttime action. Bit of a quiet old night. The odd little bleep here and there, but could have literally been anything. Haven't seen anything in front of me this morning. There's quite a few to my right, to be fair. I feel like I'm just on the fringes of where the carp are. When you do these sort of trips on lakes that you don't know that well, you don't really know when the bite times are. Is it a good night water? I haven't got a clue. Should I be expecting bites this time of day? Is it takes in the middle of the day? I know there's a lot of carp in here, which often makes you think that you could get a bite at any time, which is great, but there's still always a certain time of day where you sort of think something should be happening, but I don't know when that is. But with it being this flat calm and with the amount of carp I saw on the surface yesterday, I've got a feeling already that the zigs could be back on soon, and I'll certainly be putting some mixers out as well. Do like a bit of floater fishing. The size of the group I had out in front of me yesterday that were clearly just under the surface, they've got to be up for a floater. Got to be. Now I've just noticed that the fish, they've been sort of well out to my right, but they're gradually drifting over towards me. So with that in mind, I'm just going to put 2 or 3 spods over the spot. I'm sure all the bait's still there on the deck, but having a bit of fresh noise, but a bit of fresh smell and attraction up in the water, if they do drift over the top of the spot, it might be enough just to draw them down and start having a feed. Yeah, look, one just behind it. All right, it's really warm again now. Not only does it feel like we're not going to catch off the deck, I've put a few mixers out, and whilst they've not taken them in front of me, where they've drifted, they're definitely eating them over in that corner. But already I'm now seeing backs out of the water, fins flicking. Got to get the zigs back out for now, keep feeding mixers. We're going to make something happen, but it ain't going to be on the bottom. They are absolutely smashing them mixers. Well, I've been feeding mixers on and off for the last couple of hours, and great news, they're taking. Terrible news, the wind's got up and they're all taking over here, and I've made a bit of a schoolboy error. Since we've been here, there's been fish out in that middle zone out to my right, and I had the opportunity this morning to get into a swim. It's in between a lot of anglers, but it would have put me right on the fish. And I made the silly mistake of choosing to see the sort of a few more hours out on the deck, thinking I might still get a bite. And all that's happened is someone's taken that swim. There's now mixers being taken left, right and Chelsea in front of them, and they've just cast the controller out. So you've got to, if you're on a busy day ticket water and you see that opportunity to move, sometimes you've just got to bite the bullet and get it done. But not going to lose heart. I've still seen fish long of me. And I still think that late this afternoon, evening, once the wind dies off, I'm sure there'll be a lot more carp back out here again. But it now feels like I'm I'm kind of waiting for that evening period. Could be wrong. We've got zigs right up in the water. Any of them could go at any point. That's the theory. I've got a feeling it's going to be evenings before anything else happens. We'll keep trying though. We will keep trying.
That's something else to talk about actually. Putting floaters out. How many times have you spotted mixers out in front of your swim and then they drift off in front of the guy next door? Absolute nightmare. And Neil should know better really by now, I would have thought. Second thing, Samir and Claire. Now, they are the ultimate male and female carp fishing duo. I'm sure loads of you have watched their films, and I'm sure if you haven't seen their films, you certainly know who they are. You know, these two travel all over the world carp fishing. They absolutely love it. In fact, they've pretty much dedicated their entire life to it in recent years. And we are very lucky to have their films on Cypography. So a little bit different to what we put out most of the time. You know, I can only think of those two really that do that kind of thing in terms of fishing films. I took Gemma last year, first time I'd ever taken my wife fishing, so watch this clip. But again, little question for you, how many of you have taken your missus fishing and did she enjoy it? It does actually surprise me how many people take their wife or partner these days and how many women actually like it. I think the stigma is that it's a horrible old thing to do, they get dirty, smelly and horrible, but it does seem a lot of women actually like doing it. So do you take your partner fishing with you like Samir does and like I did last year? And have they ever caught a carp like this one you're about to see Claire catch? A true giant.
Mental storm last night. Samir was slightly worried because we don't have a bivvy, we just have a bit of tarps, which I love. So yeah, he was running about trying to make everything a little bit drier. Bless him, he got soaked. But watching that storm on the lake, honestly, it looked like a jacuzzi. And I was really excited thinking, it's gonna kick off. It's definitely gonna kick off after this storm. And yeah, we woke up in the morning with the best night's sleep ever. So I think we'll visit this place some other time and we're gonna head off to another place today.
With a couple of fresh coffees sank, it was time to pack up and hit the road once more.
The session's nearly over now and to be honest with you, I'm not ready for that. So on the way home, there's a little river I want to slip by and see if I can spot anything. And if I do, I think I'm going to spend a few nights there. Like I said, I don't want to finish fishing yet. And hopefully catch some carp.
What do you reckon of this thing, Claire?
Well, I'm really excited and happy we've decided to come and have a look at this little spot because I've never seen so many carp and big carp just swimming in a line. I think they're just swimming above the scum line, really. It's like one by one by one by one. They keep coming in.
Oh yeah, there's another one over there.
Yeah, there's loads.
They're coming out of that big snag, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're going over there into the really shallow water. I don't know why. But, they're there. Should we get the rods out?
Come on.
Let's do it.
Oh yes. Cool, that just clipped the tree on the way out, that did. Oh yeah, sweet, it's gonna be alright. Bang on.
Once again, it's been a night of disappointment. I only managed to catch one really small carp and a much bigger one this morning, bumped me off in the snag. Luckily I was able to get my rig back, so fish ain't swimming around trailing, but that one felt a much bigger carp. You know, it was really slow but unrelenting fight. And I'm kind of burnt now as me and Claire both really want to catch a bigger carp before we have to head home. Got one night left. The fish in this area appeared to have moved out. We thought it was bang on yesterday. We see so many carp here when we took the first walk down before we got our kit. And now I'm feeling quite disillusioned as it would appear they've all gone. Yesterday when we turned up it was sunny. There's plenty of them cruising around on the surface. In fact, I don't think I'd seen that many carp in this area ever before. But today, after the big torrential downpours we had this morning, they've all kind of melted away. I kind of think they've probably headed further downriver to the deeper water and out of the shallows where we are here. I think that's mine and Claire's next move, to be honest. We get our kit packed up, yeah, head downriver, see if we can spot some fish for our final night.
Been tough this session, not gonna lie. Seems like all the sessions lately have been tough. But I guess that's public carp fishing. Hopefully we can snare one before this trip's up.
I'm packing the boat and setting up camp for the last time. All our hopes and dreams rest on this one final night. Heading out into the river, we would place our lines at varying distance of depths throughout the stretch, introducing a very small amount of bait. We hope this would be enough to spark the carp's interest without feeding them off and get that all-important last bite.
Morning, sleepyhead.
Are we bonkers?
Absolutely bonkers.
Bonkers. Sounds bonkers.
No fish last night, Nika?
No. But it's still quite early. Yeah. I think get the coffee on.
I think I've got to redo the lines, as I'm absolutely sure the crayfish have eaten all the bait as we didn't put much out.
But hopefully not the plastics. So.
Hopefully not the plastic.
Yeah.
Claire's popped to the shop again to get us some food for lunch. But I've heard a couple of fish crash out just a little bit down the margin. Now I haven't got a direct line angle to it, but there is quite a nice branch sort of hanging out into the lake. So I think I'm going to go down there, put my rod right down that margin where I've heard the fish crash. And if I get a run, I just guess I go out there and just lift the line over the branch and head down to the spot. I've definitely got to get in the boat if I ever run in there, so I'm going to move the boat over to them rods as well. But yeah, I'm feeling actually quite confident.
I really like that spot. It's quite close in and it's not silty. It's really lovely. Come on, the big carp feeding spot. Jeez, this is a little bit far away, this. Oh, shit. I'm gonna have to get in the boat. Have to get in the boat and track this down. Claire's gone to the shop. I'm on my own. Oh, this is taking a lot of line. There's a lot of snags up there. Don't want to get this fish snagged up. There's a snag there as well. Don't do it. Don't do it. God, this fish is fighting so hard. Jeez. Now we're heading back up to the snaggy zone again. We don't want that. Oh, man. This fish, this does not want to give up. Jeez. Here he comes. Here he comes. This thing's one that really long. Thick set common, that. Parker. Yes. Whew. That's a pretty decent one, that. Oh yeah. Mental carp. Absolutely mental. What a battle. Jeez. Claire.
Why does it always happen?
I got one.
When I go away, the rods go.
Yeah,
Well done.
it's a nice one as well,
Well
thanks,
done.
Eddie.
Mwah. You okay?
Yeah, it's a nice one. I reckon mid-30 common,
Yeah.
massive big rubbery crayfish eating lips,
got a bit of a belly on him. He's got a pink tinge to him where he's been eating loads of
I wanted
crayfish.
to eat more of the crayfish because they keep eating my baits.
Perfect timing, darling.
Do you know what? What an amazing feeling. Please don't go in that snag.
Yeah, you've got to be quite strong with them here.
Yeah, I'm gonna... There you go. What was that?
Make sure you get... Okay, it's a massive one. Okay, it's a really big one.
Calm down, Mummy.
Yeah, I'll net it for you. Yes, yes. Hang on, no, he's not in. Is he in? Yes. Oh, Claire. Yes, Claire.
Don't let the net go, you
Yes, Claire. Yes, Claire.
Yeah, man.
Oh, mate. Oh, yes. Check that out.
Keep buzzing, mate.
Oh, gosh, Claire, that's a giant.
Oh my God, my first big carp of the year.
It's a
And what a
giant.
beautiful one it is. Look how orange it is. Oh my
Beautiful,
God.
proper crayfish amongst
Oh
them.
my God.
Look at the width as well.
Yeah, baby.
Jeez. It's £60 on the nose.
No way.
It's £60 on the nose, Claire. Shit. Yes. Put it down. New PB. New PB. New PB.
Buzzing, buzzing,
What a
buzzing.
carp.
How about that for a carp, eh? Big, big mirror that. I think bigger than anything I've ever caught in my life, actually. Definitely is, actually. Was it 60 something pound, wasn't it? Yeah, so yeah, bigger carp than I've ever caught. What's your Mrs. PB, if she does go fishing with you? What's the biggest carp she's ever caught? How many of you have a smaller PB than your partner? I bet there's a few. For our next topic, we've got Henry Lennon and his deeper. Now, I'm sure lots of you know what a deeper is. They are always a hot topic in terms of carp fishing. Are they cheating or are they not? That is my question to you. So for those of you that don't know what this is, it is a small spherical device about this big that attaches to the end of your line. It has a sonar on it. You can cast it out into the lake, or in Henry's case, you can attach it to the pole. It goes along the lake surface, whether you're pushing it with a pole or reeling it back in with your fishing rod. And as it travels over the surface, it emits the sonar and then gives you a reading back to the bank, showing you what is beneath it. So whether that's fish or the lake bed itself. So you can go into a swim. Not only can you tell if there's carp in front of the swim by seeing them show up on screen, but you also see the topography of the bottom, whether it's weed, gravel, silt, that kind of thing. So it's something that often divides opinion. As you'll see here, Henry loves using it, and you can see why. You know, you can see why so many people see these things as a great tool these days, but what is your opinion on them? Is using this kind of thing taking it a step too far? Is it cheating or is it not? The deeper sonar.
I'm just making sure I bring the mono rods. I've got about 8 different sets of rods in here because I hate changing between different reels, floating braid, sinking braid, stalking, whatever. So I just have them all set up, but they're all in the same luggage, which is a bit of a problem. So just making sure that I've got the right ones. So we've gone round, baited a few spots and had this really confident half hour just before Rich came where I could see quite a few in the edge, but that sun's just gone under some cloud cover and I just don't think that opportunity that I was hoping for on the top is going to quite materialise. So we have baited a few spots, done a bit of prep work, and now I think it's time to fish properly. Off this tree here, there were some fish fizzing. It's the only place where I've seen fish absolutely 100% feeding where we can fish, so it's definitely worth an hour or two. I'm just gonna go for my standard approach, which is a low line pop-up on a slip Ronnie presentation. What am I going to do is I'm going to bushwhack it to where we saw the fish feeding. What's going to be really useful here is actually put the deeper on the end of the bushwhacker, and by doing that I know that what I'm dropping on is presentable. I know a lot of people slag off the deeper. Sometimes they think it's not needed in their fishing, but for me, especially this type of fishing, it's so useful because you see it all the time. That bushwhacker is so good for chasing bubblers, but if you don't know what you're dropping on, you can be wasting a couple of hours, and that's not what I want to do on this session where we're all about catching fish as quickly as possible. So that deep's going to come in really handy. Little trap, see if we can nick one down on the edge there where we saw him feeding. Straight off the bat, it's got a bit of depth to it, isn't it? Oh, look at that, what a margin's got. I didn't have to worry about not being presented. So really, we couldn't be getting a cleaner bottom here. I'm almost kind of annoyed I've got a pop-up on because it is so clean. Basically, this white bottom indicates it's really hard, like gravel hard. And there's nothing in between this white interfering with the radars coming back. So there's no weed there. If there was weed, we'd get this interference here and it would bounce back as green or even as yellow, and that's basically saying that there's weed there. If it's completely clear, it means there's no weed. If it goes straight down to this bottom layer, then we know it's presentable. And how firm that bottom layer is indicated by the colour at the bottom. Where it's white, I know it's rock hard. So yeah, no issues presenting. What I'll do when I'm dropping it is, I'll give it a bit of line. What I don't want to happen is for me to drop on a tight line and pull it away from that bait. So what I'll do is I'll give it some excess line, and what I'm trying to do is just catch it just before it hits the bottom, so that I can just sort of straighten everything out. So you are getting that tight line when you're dropping it, but you're not pulling it away from that nice little baited patch. It takes a little bit of getting used to how much free line you need to give it based off the depth, but you can sort of eventually start gauging it pretty well. Fuck off, seagulls. There's almost too many opportunities here at the moment. We've got multiple fish fizzing in front of us here. We've got fish long on the surface. We've got fish crashing on the lake behind us as well. It's quite easy sometimes to feel overwhelmed in these situations where what do you go for? Sometimes you rush trying to make the most of every opportunity. So I'm just trying to make myself slow down a little bit. I'm going to get 2 rods out in front of me here where it does look like there's quite a few fish, and I do think we've got a chance on the bottom. But also, once I've done that, I'm going to think about trying to get something going on the top out there. There are fish on the surface. The seagulls, as always is the case, are being a bit of a pain already, just from one pouch that I fired out there. But we'll persevere, and at the very least, we'll have 2 rods fishing here. And that's always something that's quite important. I've spent so many times where you're trying to chase an opportunity there and then, and it means that you forego other opportunities. By doing this, we've got 2 rods in the water all time on the bottom, and we can sort of spend a little bit of time trying to make something else happen, safe in the knowledge that we do have a chance at all times with those rods out here. There's so many fish here, they just keep bubbling up.
Sticking to the topic of things that help you within your fishing, but not so much in the traditional way, we have the placing of rigs by hand. Now, the next snippet you're about to watch is from one of 2 films that we released back in October from the underwater fishing guys, or underfishing guys, sorry. And they get that name because they produce underwater fishing content. They do all sorts of different stuff. They're a great bunch of guys. They make some lovely content. Some of the stuff they've captured underwater really is brilliant. We're only recently dipping our toes into the underwater fishing stuff. And for the last 18 months or so, we've been making our own films at Cypography documenting underwater carp fishing. These guys do it a little bit different to us. It's a lot more involved, but the main difference that you'll see with what they're doing here is they are placing the rigs by hand. They do cast as well, and then they'll drop the camera in front of the rig, but quite often you'll see these guys actually swimming the rigs out by hand and positioning them. So they've gone to Lake Bled. For those of you that don't know anything about Bled, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. I think is it in Slovenia? Where is it? Is it in Slovenia, Bridger? Slovenia. Yeah. I think so. The man behind the camera says it's Slovenia. Something like that anyway. But a beautiful, beautiful place. Loads of big carp, crystal clear. A great venue for underwater filming. And they made a film there. But what you'll see here is they swim the rigs out and place them in front of the camera by hand. Now, of course, that's a really good way of getting a rig exactly where you need it. But you could argue, and again, it's all down to personal preference, that placing a rig by hand is not the natural fishing situation that a lot of us would have. So my question to you, a bit like with Henry, is do you feel that the rigs being placed by hand takes away from it? Or do you think, do you know what, it's an underwater film, we just want to see how the rigs are reacted to, and whether it's cast out there, dropped with a pole, or swam out there by a diver, I don't really care. I just want to see the rig on the spot and how the carp react to it.
Waiting game has begun, but our waiting game is a little bit different than normal because we're gonna set up a laptop and watch what happens on the water. It's starting to rain a little bit now. It's a lot different weather than we had all week. Let's hope the fish get activated because of the weather change. At least I would say this is better fishing weather than the full sun that we had all week. So yeah, we're enjoying it to bits, and let's hope we can catch another one in front of the live cam.
We decided to place the second live cam on the beach in front of the camping. We have seen a couple of carp show there, and because of the weather there's nobody swimming. The water temperature is a few degrees warmer over here, so hopefully there are active carp in the area.
We're going to place the live cam around the first yellow buoy that's over there.
They've placed the live camera, and this time we used the Willem's bottom bait rig with a straight point size 4. The shank of the hook is extended with shrink tube, which gives the best hook hold for big carp. We were surprised by how quickly a couple of carp came to check out the bait. Within a few minutes there were already small commons feeding. The bottom bait rig might not be the best choice to hook these feeding small commons, and the first one that picked up the hook bait spat the hook out before the hook point got a chance to penetrate. A pop-up rig might have suited the situation better, but we had our hopes on a bigger lake bled carp.
They saw some fish swimming, placed the camera, and yes, they hooked one. So let's go to Stijn and Luc.
After the rig was ejected, a bigger mirror came in and picked up the hook bait. And this carp was nailed in the bottom lip. Look at this, awesome. Stijn spotted some carp on the beach, so we had to place a camera over there. And then a few carp started to feed and the water became really murky. And this mirror hooked himself. Perfectly hooked, and now it's time to release the beauty. I will kiss it, only for the movie. Mwah! And perfectly hooked in the bottom of the lip. So Willem's rig did his job. It's ready to go.
The roach tried to pick up the pop-up.
That's a carp.
Whoa.
Whoa. There's a carp in the middle.
Oh,
a small
carp.
one and a bigger one.
That's a big common. It's coming the right direction.
It's feeding.
Right direction. Come on, go.
Jeff, come. Fast. They're feeding. What's going on? A big carp.
He's close.
Oh, the line is over there. That's
He's touching the line, but
oh, it doesn't bother him. Yeah.
he is close. He took a rock. He picked up the whole rock. Oh, he is close. He saw the hook bait, definitely. That was with the rough tail. It's a big one with a rough tail. Go for it. Oh, he missed it. Look. When watching back the footage, we noticed that a big mirror had visited the spot, but it clearly got spooked by the main line that was running up the steep slope. The change in weather definitely turned the fish on. It's clear to see that the fish started feeding much more actively on the bottom baits. And meanwhile, James was fishing the other side of the lake and he gave us a call with very good news. He had a really nice fish in the net.
Well, it's been a long time coming, but eventually we have a nice one.
That's a good fish, James.
Very happy, Kenyon.
It's bigger than I thought it would be.
Under the net. Finally, a good one. Yes. Right, let's have some dinner, yeah?
I'm so hungry. That's a great idea. In the meantime, nothing much had happened in front of the live cam. However, Luke had a take on a different rod, which also had a camera on it. Luke used a Ronnie rig, but with a different hook than what we had been using before. Everything was going well, and the fish was coming up.
No, I don't know.
And then the worst happened.
Wat? Alsjeblieft. Los. Wat gebeurt hier? Los. On the Ronnie rig. This was a huge bummer for us, considering how hard we worked to catch a carp in front of the camera. But we were all very relieved this was the only carp that we lost during the trip. It didn't get our spirits down, and we were more motivated than ever by the knowledge that the fish were feeding. We went back in the water to search for more spots in the area that could be potential spots for carp. We placed the camera with some live system boilies in front of it and waited to see what happened. We checked the footage an hour later and were shocked by what we saw. A lovely fat common was constantly feeding and completely dominating the spot. This common had no hesitation and fed so confidently that it even knocked over the camera. We saw a lot of carp passing by the spot, so this was a big opportunity for us to fish. It was clear that the carp were feeding on the boilies, so we cast the rig towards the spot with a snowman hookbait. The camera is rolling again in the hope that the fat common would find the hookbait. While Willem and Kenya were on their way back to us, we already had a take on the rod that we just cast out. It was Jeffrey's turn to catch his first carp from Lake Platte.
Good job. Yes, first carp of Platte. Awesome.
Who's that? Kiss the fish.
Kiss the fish.
Can you hear me? Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, here she goes.
When watching back the underwater footage, we noticed something very strange. Obviously, it's the same fat common that dominated the spot that picked up the hookbait. But after he did that, he did not shoot off like the previous carp we caught. With the hook in its bottom lip, the carp just stayed on the spot trying to get rid of the hook. Unbelievable footage that we have never seen before. We heard stories in the past about carp that don't move after they get hooked, but this is the first time we captured it on film. Here we can really see how important the hook sharpness is. We recommend using a new hook every time you catch a carp. This way you can even catch these wary carp which would otherwise elude you. The bottom bait rig has done its job here.
We were incredibly happy to catch such a nice fish after the one we lost before. Jeffrey let the carp go back into the clear water, leaving a very happy angler behind.
This is the second best moment of my life.
What was the
third best?
What were the other two?
Yeah, first and second shell.
Aww.
This clip is from a film we did with Garry Atkin. Now, Garry Atkin is probably not someone that all of you watching this have heard of before, but Garry is certainly a guy that has probably caught a lot more big carp than most people that are watching this. You know, he's one of those people that really has caught a lot of big fish, but has kind of always shied away from any form. But, you know, I'm not saying he's completely underground or anything like that, but he's not your typical face of carp fishing, shall we say. But he's very much the kind of angler that we have always liked to film with at Cypography. Never easy to get people to do it. You know, these people are often quite shy when it comes to going on camera, blah, blah, blah. But we've always done that. And actually, at the very start of Cypography, it was those kind of people that kind of made us what we were and what we are today. So we still do this. We still visit these kind of guys, and we still love to do it. And it's for good reason, you know. You see a very different side to carp fishing than what you might typically find scrolling YouTube, for example. And the film we did with Garry covers all sorts of different aspects of carp fishing and his carp fishing. But one thing in particular we really wanted to talk about was a massive, massive common, I think 58 pound, that he caught from a park lake. Now, park lake fishing is not like normal fishing, and My question to you is, how many of you have got the bottle to spend your time fishing at these kind of venues? Because I've done it myself a fair few times, and one thing I can assure you is the difference between being behind a fence or behind lock and key, safely nestled away on your syndicate, on your club water, there's a difference between that and fishing a park lake that has crowds day and night. You know, there are no similarities in the two, and this particular park is very busy. Not always with the nicest characters, but with, you know, such lovely carp. It's all worth it in the end. But yeah, the question to you is, how many of you are willing to fish these kind of places? How many of you would much rather stay somewhere where you're safe? And do you have any interesting stories to tell us? Because we would love to hear them.
There's a colossus of a common in there, you know, just a real big fish. And I've got friends who caught it and sort of just people have done exactly what I'd done before me, and I just fancied having a go, you know, along with quite a few other people who were having a go at the time. Horrible place to fish, absolute. It's not, you know, you could sit there, you could fall out. If that was the only lake you fished, you could probably fall out with the love of fishing. You could lose that if that was the only fishing you got available to you, you know. But it was different, and I like variety. I like different things. You know, it's all different. Everything's a different challenge, isn't it? You know, everywhere you go, there'll be something completely different. I mean, some of it was, you know, you got people, you could hear people singing behind your bivvy at 2 o'clock in the morning, and just odd stuff. But it just added to it, you know. There's a pub on site. I'd turn up and have my Sunday dinner. I'd turn up on a Sunday, have my Sunday lunch, 2 pints of beer. I'd have my bucket where I wanted to be, and that was me. You know, I was happy because I knew I was getting where I wanted to be. And in a way, I enjoyed it. Well, I did. Of course, I enjoyed it. Fortunately, you know, on the very last day where I could fish, like the bank that I was fishing, the last swim was closing. Like the whole, I don't know, 500-600 yards of bank was closing the very next day. And I managed to catch the one that I wanted to catch the day before it closed. So it turned out great. Good bit of fishing, caught some nice carp, but not, like you say, a million miles away from the fishing that I'm actually doing at the minute. You know, on my own, middle of nowhere, that is just the complete polar opposite. But I loved it, and when you know you've got a colossal giant of a carp like that swimming around, and it's costing £8 for 24 hours to fish, you know, it's why not? Why not? No, I was told about that Park Lake fish a few years ago. A friend of mine had caught it in the winter time from an area it's known to sort of visit, and I just saw his pictures in the water, and it can be a bit light in colour when the water's been dyed and whatever, but in the winter it darkens off a lot. Perfect head, overslung mouth. It's as wide as a steering wheel. It's an absolute brute of a carp. It's a bruiser. And I think the year before, somebody had it at £58.5. I think it came out in the March, £58.5. And I was thinking, you know, realistically, quite possibly be fishing for a £60 common, you know, on a cheap ticket. Yeah, I mean, where else can you go and fish for a mid-50 common, a mint condition one that, look, you know, in a park lake, big park lake, on a cheap ticket? For me, I know there is lots of, you know, there's big 50-pounders are not that rare now, but for me, fish that I'd want to catch, they are, you know, they are. Yeah, I sort of knew where I needed to be and knew what I needed to do realistically, because it had been done by other guys in the past, you know, and I knew about that. So lots of people know, you know, where this fish, when the water warms up, where this fish will end up in early spring. And I just know I needed a lot of bait and as much time as I possibly could. I was doing 2 nights every week and visiting once midweek to absolutely fill it in. And then, yeah, get back in the zone and just push away at it and just try and get as many rod hours in as I could. No, there's lots of stuff going through your head of fishing a place like that, mate. Obviously, it was all about one area of the lake, and there's a few other guys sort of with the same plan in mind, you know? But I kind of figured it pretty quickly that if I turned up on a Sunday morning, I could get I would get where I needed to be after the week. You know, the weekenders, I think there was 1 or 2 times where somebody had stayed in a bit longer, you know, and then there was one instance where somebody had stayed in there for 6 nights, told me he was going, and I'm going down there and I'm like, mate, you're still in, yeah. But that's carp fishing, isn't it? And I'm sat at home, near 90 miles away, thinking this, and I'd seen it by this point. I'd seen it visit, I'd started getting bites, it was on the bait, and I'm thinking he's going to catch this fish. Well, I'm not there, you know. Yeah, every morning expecting a text message, but no, it worked out okay in the end. Mate, I was fishing over a lot of bait. I actually had a take one day. I'm throwing handfuls of boilies over my rig, and my receiver's bossed off in my pocket, and I had to run back to my rod, and I got a 30 pounder on the end. But no, it was the spot I was fishing. I only got to see the spot one day, right? It's bizarre. One day the light levels were completely different to any other day, and I could see the spot it had turned into shells, because I'd put, I can't remember how many cowlicks I put in, something like 20 kilo of salt before I started putting the boilies in. And there was a scooter. This one day I actually got to see there was a scooter on my spot, like literally, I could have dropped my lead on it. You know, it was there, and there was bottles, empty bottles. Got this just one day where the visibility was just amazing. And I was like, how on earth have I even had a bite from there? You know, it was like shit. And I got cut off one bite. Actually, my lines pulled up tight, and I've got 30-pound fluoro leaders just cut off on the tape, and it's obviously ran over that scooter, you know. But yeah, no, a lot of bait. Oh mate, there was no shells there at all. There was no shells until I salted it, and I put a sack of hemp in, first bait, a sack of hemp and some smashed up, and it was the same as the rest of the margin. It was just silk, but yeah, but I didn't know at the time because I couldn't see it, but I got one look at it, probably, I don't know, would it have been early March, it would have been. I don't know why, but it was just the light levels, just everything, no pollution. It was just, and it was an amazing sight to see. I was just shocked. There was pint glasses, and there was actually reeled in a dog's toy. Yeah, there was a load of shit down there. It was unbelievable. I was like, how on earth am I getting bites from this spot, you know? Yeah, well, basically, it's just a busy bank, probably 350 yards long, pub on it, a gym, a donut, little van, big wheel, just a busy area. And the pub, actually, they sell bags of party blend, you know, bird feed, 50p a bag. So obviously that was, you know, that was it, aniseed party blend and bread, little white pop-up over the top of whatever, and that was how we fished it. But just, you know, it turned out I was getting bites while there was people like stood from sort of me to the camera away. People stood there probably looking at these fish and the feeding. Yeah, crazy fishing really, just a crazy place to fish. Overnight, people would throw bikes in, and you'd walk up in the morning and be like, shit, pulling them out, and scooters and bikes most nights. Well, not most nights, but every week at least. There's every man for themselves trying to get into that zone. Yeah, there was one guy had done a 6-night session just running up to me catching the big one. Yeah, it was a bit, obviously, you know, people know the form and know, you could see they'd get into that zone, and the water in front of the pub, the area, just it'd be coloured up by dinner time. Every day there'd be fish turning up, and yeah, people would be chucking bread in for the ducks, and the fish are just there for a free feed. So shallow lake as well, so it warms up quick, you know. And they know the sun's on it all day. It just pulls it. It just pulls them to it. There was a guy who dropped in. You can only do 6 nights. Club rule, you can do 6 nights, and he dropped in for 3 nights. And by 3 nights, he hadn't caught one. He was fishing just sort of short of the zone. He was just a little bit short, and it mattered. You know, it made a big difference. Anyway, I've gone back when he said he's leaving. I've gone back and he's decided he's not leaving anymore. And while I'm stood there, I've been like putting horse in the bait in, you know. And as I'm walking down, and one's clattered out right where I'm like, oh. And mate, he's not seen him. He's been sat there. He's despondent, but he's got a lot of time, and he ain't going home. He's staying. So And now I've said, well, I'll come back when you're leaving. And I came back and he caught one. He had a mid-20 and he left I think it was about 5 o'clock in the evening. He went and I got my swim back, and I'd seen the previous week, I'd had a 37 common, silvery one, real nice one. And I'm pretty sure I seen it with a bigger one, which in hindsight was it's probably the big one. And I kind of knew, I couldn't sleep. I need to get back in the spot. Anyway, by the time matey's got home, I've caught two that evening. By the time it's got dark, between 5 and 8 o'clock, I've got my rods out and I've caught two. I think I've had a 26 and a 28. And then the very next morning, there's only 2 days left of the bank. No more fishing on this bank for water sports activities and everything else. And the very next morning, what did I have? I had 4. A brace of 30s, 2 fully scaled, 26 and 28. And then the 5th bite that morning was the big one.
Right, so there we go. That was a tiny little sliver and a few of my favourite moments, a few talking points from the many hours of footage that we released throughout the month of October. And as I said at the start of this video, it's called Talking Points for a reason. We want you to interact with us, or me. So, answer the questions I've asked you. Even if it's just one, just answer one of those questions. We'd love to hear from you. We'll reply to you where possible. And as I said at the start, we've got t-shirts here, grey, black and green. And we will pick 3 people that comment and send them a t-shirt of their choice. So thanks for watching, and that is all from me.